Hello. Have you ever had moments when you realized your powerlessness in front of a strong opponent? Have you ever felt like your desire to fight for honor only makes things worse? In a world where open confrontation often leads to defeat, it's important to know when to retreat and how to use surrender to your advantage. Sometimes, admitting defeat can be a more powerful strategic move than continuing to fight fruitlessly. It's time to rethink your methods and learn how to turn weakness into strength. The sages and strategists of the past understood that when strength is at an end, direct confrontation will only hurt. They knew that true strength often lies in the ability to retreat and store up strength for future victories. In a world ruled by power and aggression, the ability to skillfully surrender can be your most powerful weapon. Ancient philosophers taught that there is great power hidden in the ability to accept defeat for a time. Surrender is not a sign of weakness if it is thoughtful and strategically sound. It is a temporary retreat that will give you the opportunity to prepare for the next move to deal a devastating blow to your opponent. One day, Jordan, a young but incredibly talented entrepreneur, was on the verge of collapse. His artificial intelligence startup had a clear technological advantage. His team had developed a unique algorithm that could revolutionize the market. But there was one but. Jordan lacked funding. Although his product was innovative and ahead of its time, it was becoming impossible to compete with industry giants without financial support. Lawrence, the head of a large technology corporation with significant capital, a strong marketing machine, and connections around the world, appeared on the scene. Lawrence quickly saw the potential of Jordan's startup and began aggressively promoting his own product, which was supposedly similar to Jordan's, making it his goal to drive Jordan out of the market. Realizing that he had no way to compete with Lawrence financially, Jordan decided not to go head-to-head. Everyone around him predicted his imminent defeat, but Jordan chose a different path. Instead of fighting a fruitless battle, he offered Lawrence to buy a startup. The terms of the deal were cleverly thought out. Jordan agreed to sell the technology for a handsome sum, which solved all his financial problems, and he also received a small stake in Lawrence's corporation and the opportunity to work on the development of another promising project, but already in Lawrence's corporation. At first glance, it looked like a capitulation because Jordan ceded his main asset and became a hired employee of Lawrence, albeit with a small stake in his business. Lawrence, aware of Jordan's technological advantage, agreed to the deal, believing that he had gained control of a unique development and removed a dangerous competitor. In reality, however, Jordan made a smart move. Not only did he benefit financially, but he also gained access to the resources of the technology corporation that Lawrence owned. By gaining a stake in the stock and the opportunity to work for Lawrence, Jordan remained inside the system and could monitor Lawrence's next moves. After a few months, Lawrence Corporation began having difficulty integrating the new technology, and Jordan was the only one who could help. His involvement became critical to the success of the project, and Lawrence had to increase Jordan's influence within the company. A year later, Jordan not only regained control of his technology, but also expanded his influence within the corporation, with more opportunities to develop his ideas. He stepped back to gain strength and wait for the moment when he could take the lead. This story shows that a thoughtful surrender is not weakness, but a skillful strategy to not just survive, but to win in the long run. Jordan avoided disaster by not getting involved in a financially disadvantageous war and preserved his future when a competitor became dependent on his knowledge and talent. So, use the strategy of surrender. If your opponent is clearly stronger than you, don't fight for your honor by risking everything you have. Instead, capitulate gracefully and with dignity. Admitting defeat will give you time to lick your wounds, rethink your strategy, and prepare for the next step. For example, if your competitor at work is clearly superior to you at the moment, don't try to fight him directly. Instead, recognize his superiority and use this time to self-develop and accumulate resources. Let your opponent think he has won while you stealthily strengthen your position. Your capitulation will be his underestimation, and in time his power will begin to wane. Don't let your opponent enjoy an unqualified victory over you. Surrender one step before your defeat. Surrender will become your instrument of power if you learn to use it correctly. By admitting your temporary defeat, you are actually laying the foundation for future victories. Power is not always in the attack. Sometimes it is in the skillful and timely retreat. Knowing when to retreat so you can come back and win is a real talent. Hello. Have you had moments when you felt that by showing mercy to your enemy or competitor, you only gave him a chance to take revenge on you? Have you felt that your indecisiveness allowed the enemy to recover and prepare a new blow? In this cruel world, the slightest show of weakness can be your undoing. It is important to realize that the enemy must be defeated completely and ruthlessly. Half measures create only an illusion of security, turning into a more serious threat in the future. The great strategists of the past knew the price of indecision. They realized that an undefeated enemy is a future source of trouble. History is full of examples where the slightest spark left behind was ignited into a flame of retaliation. Great generals have learned these lessons through hardship, coming to the realization that the only way to ensure security is to completely and utterly destroy the enemy. This is the only way to ensure that he does not recover and return with new forces. In the modern world, we are talking, of course, about destruction of resources, morale, and the like, and nothing else that can go beyond the law. One day in California, where dairy production plays a key role in agriculture, a real battle broke out between two farmers, Owen and Paul. Paul, an experienced and well-known farmer in the region, had held a leading position in the dairy market for many years. His farm was one of the largest, and he considered himself invincible. But when a new competitor, Owen, came on the scene, everything changed. Owen was an ambitious and visionary entrepreneur, and even though he realized that Paul would not willingly share the market, Owen still offered Paul a compromise: to divide the territories to avoid unnecessary competition and maintain stability for both sides. Owen was offering a strategically sound solution that was beneficial to all. However, Paul, confident in his unshakable position, proudly rejected the proposal and humiliated Owen in the process. Paul believed that the young farmer was not a threat to him, but Owen, not receiving consent, moved into action. By starting to dump the price of dairy products, he captured most of the market. Retailers, lured by the lucrative offers, quickly switched to working with Owen. In response, Paul, trying to maintain his position, took a risky step. He mortgaged his farmland to a bank to gain additional resources to fight back. But instead of regaining his position, he only made his situation worse. By cutting prices to the bone, Owen strengthened his ties with retailers and increased sales. Paul, on the other hand, could not withstand the financial pressure. His debts were mounting, and the market was increasingly going to his competitor. When it became clear that the battle was lost, the bank to which Paul had mortgaged his farm put his land up for auction. Owen, who had used his successful deals to accumulate capital, took the last decisive step. He bought Paul's farmland at auction. Owen now became a monopoly in the region's dairy market, controlling not only his farm, but also Paul's former land. And Paul showed himself as a stubborn and proud man who lost everything he had without the slightest chance of ever getting back into business. Because besides business, his reputation was also destroyed. Owen's victory, which was complete and absolute, turned out to be Paul's ticket to oblivion. So, defeat the enemy completely. Never leave an undefeated enemy behind, assuming he is no longer a threat. Even the smallest spark can ignite into a flame. If your competitor in business has been defeated, don't stop there. Destroy his reputation, destroy his resources, destroy his spirit. Don't let him recover and get back in the game. Your goal is not just to temporarily defeat your opponent, but to completely and utterly destroy him. Smash him without leaving him the slightest chance to recover. Let your enemy know that any revival will be met with even greater strength and determination on your part. Remember, half measures are for the weak. He who is willing to go all the way survives and wins. Be ruthless, because weakness will always be used against you. Finish what you have started and let your victory become an example for others. Hello. Have you had moments when you strived for decency and honesty, but faced the fact that your efforts collapsed because of dirty intrigues and failures? When despite your best efforts, the world failed to notice your purity, and any mistakes turned into stains on your reputation? Perhaps you have already realized that in this world, it is more important not only to be decent, but also to be able to manage others in such a way that you yourself remain untarnished. How many times have you seen someone else's mistakes or willful actions stain your reputation? The sages of the past knew that true power lies not just in personal integrity, but in the ability to maintain the appearance of purity by using others to do the dirty work. Great strategists always remained above suspicion, directing the actions of others so that they themselves would not touch the dirt. They realized that by maintaining outward decency, one could maintain their power and influence. History is full of examples of leaders who remained untainted, while their subordinates carried out the most questionable assignments. This art requires a subtle skill, being the center of events and remaining invisible to the mud. One day, in the Texas oil market, two rival companies began fighting for dominance in the region. Casper, owner of one of the oldest and largest oil companies, has always been characterized by subtle calculation and foresight. His competitor, Ryan, headed a young and ambitious company that was rapidly capturing the market through aggressive pricing and cost-cutting. Casper realized that a head-on confrontation with Ryan might be too risky, especially given his influence over local suppliers. Anticipating the inevitable confrontation, Casper prepared his company in advance for all possible audits. He had invested heavily in upgrading the infrastructure and adhering to all modern environmental standards. His office was always stocked with perfectly executed documents, confirming full compliance with environmental regulations. This protected him from possible counterattacks by competitors or regulators. Ryan, on the other hand, despite his successful sales, was clearly ignoring many environmental requirements, skimping on safety and compliance. Casper decided to capitalize on this weakness, but began to operate covertly. He made several anonymous donations to environmental organizations genuinely concerned with protecting the environment. He did not give direct orders, but in his recommendations he transparently hinted that the activities of some oil companies, especially those of Ryan's company, needed closer scrutiny. A few months later, environmentalists published reports that listed Ryan's company as one of the worst in meeting environmental standards. This sparked a wave of public criticism, which triggered regulatory inspections. Soon Ryan was forced to suspend oil production, and his reputation was ruined. But Casper didn't stop there. Seeing Ryan losing money and influence, he seized the moment. Instead of taking direct action and completely destroying his business, he decided to take over his company and offered to buy it from Ryan. The offer, made at the right time when Ryan was most vulnerable, included terms at a severely undervalued price. Ryan simply had no choice and accepted the deal, realizing that further resistance could have led to the complete collapse of his business. In the end, Casper became the owner of Ryan's company, expanded his personal assets, and strengthened his market position while keeping his hands absolutely clean. So, keep your hands clean. Personally, never do anything that might stain your image as a decent person. Use other people as tools, guide their actions, but don't let the dirt touch you directly. Let others do the dirty work and you enjoy the results. Your image as a decent person is your greatest asset. Be able to manipulate people so that they fulfill your most dubious plans, while you remain in the shadows. Let your purity will be your armor, reflecting any attempts to denigrate you. Look at the world cynically. Use other people to perform the dirtiest deeds, while you yourself remain an example of virtue. Let others see you as a model of decency, even if all your power is built on the actions of others. Your goal is an impeccable external image at any cost, because in a world where dirt is inevitable, the one who can keep his hands clean and control chaos from the shadows survives and wins. Hello. Have you ever been in a situation when you hesitated before an important step, losing confidence in your actions and postponing the beginning of the case for later? When your hesitation only aggravated the situation and led to failure instead of bringing you success? Have you ever thought that it is hesitation and doubt that makes you a victim of circumstances and makes you weaker in the eyes of others? The world does not forgive the insecure. Indecision is not only bad, but shameful. Every misstep you make due to hesitation only reinforces this stigma. The sages of the past knew that the power of action lies in confidence. Great generals and leaders never allowed themselves to hesitate on the battlefield or in governing a state. They understood that hesitation equals defeat. Ancient strategists taught that any indecision is a signal for your enemies to attack. Confidence and courage have always stood at the head of successful endeavors. History has shown that the winners are those who did not hesitate to embark on an endeavor despite uncertainty and risks. Indecision, shameful in its essence, has always led to failure and oblivion. One day before a haute couture show in New York, young designer Evangelina found herself on the threshold of her first big show. Her collection was bold and innovative, but Evangelina herself was plagued by doubts about the controversial elements she had chosen to incorporate into her designs. She was surrounded by recognized maestros who were confident in themselves and their work, and she couldn't shake the thought that her vision was too audacious to be accepted. Evangelina almost decided to postpone her performance, convincing herself that she needed more time. Then Carlos, a legend in the fashion world who had long ago taken his place among the top designers, appeared on her path. Carlos saw Evangelina's great potential and that her insecurity could ruin everything. Taking a close look at her anxious face, he told her, "Forget fear. You must act boldly and daringly. It is better to try and be wrong than to be tormented by doubts. Even if you make mistakes because of your self-confidence, they can always be corrected. Just continue to act even more decisively." In the fashion world, it's not those who are afraid who are respected, but those who take risks. These words were a cold shower for Evangelina. Carlos didn't comfort her or tell her that everything would be easy. He just let her know that now was the time to take risks. If she didn't prove herself tonight, there might not be another chance. Evangelina realized that her indecision was the only thing that could prevent her success. Carlos's words freed her from the fear of potential mistakes and failure. On the day of the show, Evangelina stood backstage with a different energy. When her collection was presented on the runway, it literally captured the attention of the audience and critics. Bold decisions, daring lines, and unexpected combinations of fabrics created a real sensation. On this momentous day, New York saw a new rising star of the fashion world, Evangelina, who was not afraid to take risks. Carlos, watching her triumph, smiled with a sense of accomplishment because he was a maestro of high fashion, brilliant and wise. He knew that now Evangelina was on the right track. In the world of fashion, and not only in it, those who are not afraid to act boldly and self-confidently and who are ready to correct mistakes only knew even more daring steps forward. So, if you are not sure of success, don't even start. Your indecision will become your weakness and make you vulnerable and despised. It is better to start confidently and even arrogantly than to hesitate. Any mistakes made because of your overconfidence can always be corrected by acting with even more self-confidence and determination. Courage takes cities, while indecision leaves you with nothing. Act with confidence and determination, even if you are not 100% sure of success. Those around you respect and fear those who act, even if perhaps mistakenly, but with great confidence. Your courageous actions will make everyone follow you, not the other way around. In this world, the one who is not afraid to take risks and proceeds with full confidence in his abilities survives and wins. Your doubts are your enemy and your shame. Destroy them, and you will see the world bow to your determination and confidence. This is the only way to achieve true success and recognition. Hello. Have you ever wondered why people hate the truth? The truth is ugly, and it shatters their fragile illusions. When you encounter a storm of resentment trying to deliver the truth, it is because people are not prepared for the painful process of destroying fantasies. Your pursuit of truth only repels them and brings them contempt. People have a hard time coming to terms with harsh reality. and they are ready to tear you apart for trying to make them see it. The sages of antiquity understood that power lies not in truth, but in the skillful management of illusions. Great leaders and manipulators have always known that human fantasies are the key to control. They created attractive images like oases in the desert and won the hearts and minds of people. History shows that those who skillfully play on people's fantasies achieve the greatest power and influence. One day, Jack, an independent director with a limited budget, completed the rough draft of his first feature film. It was an overly frank movie about life's injustices and the protagonist's defeat in his battle with the system. Jack believed that his movie would reveal the harsh truth of life and turn the audience's perception of reality. In an effort to attract financing, he showed his movie at a private screening to producers in the hope of finding their support. Among the representatives of the movie industry was Steven, a very experienced producer who knows a lot about managing audience expectations. He immediately saw great potential in Jack's film, but he realized that the truth that the director wanted to show was too cruel for the general audience, because people in their majority crave not the harsh reality, but fantasies and beautiful illusions that help them escape from their own fears and problems. Steven offered Jack to finance his project if he would reshoot key scenes and change the ending. According to the producer, the movie should end with a partial victory of the hero over the system, which will give the audience hope in the illusion of justice. And it is this course of events will have to attract more attention of viewers and movie critics and should make the movie more popular and accordingly more highly profitable. Jack was hesitant because by changing the story, he would ruin his plan. However, he soon realized that the public is not ready to face the truth in its purest form. People want to believe in a fairy tale, in the possibility of victory over life's difficulties, and their fantasies are more important than any truth. Accepting Steven's suggestion, Jack reshot the scenes, adding more dynamics and changing the ending to a more optimistic one. When the movie was released, it was incredibly successful. The audience, encouraged by the final alleged victory of the hero over the system, marveled at the talent of the director, and film critics called the movie a masterpiece. Jack received recognition, and most importantly, the realization that managing people's fantasies is much more effective than trying to impose the harsh truth on people. The illusions gave the audience comfort, and Jack realized that skillful manipulation of people's fantasies is the key to winning their hearts and minds. So, manipulate people's fantasies and do not try to convey the truth. Truth is not only useless, but harmful to your goals. People are eager to believe in fairy tales and dreams, and they need hope and comfort in this harsh world. Create an attractive illusion for them, and they will follow you. Turn your words into mirages that provide comfort and inspiration, and you will gain power over people's minds and hearts. If you need to attract attention and support, create an image of a bright future where your ideas and projects will become a source of prosperity and happiness. People will reach out to you like an oasis in the desert, and you will be able to guide them in the direction you want. Use people's fear and uncertainty to strengthen your influence. Manipulate their illusions, and they will become your loyal servants. Remember, controlling illusions is a great power, and the truth is only a weak shadow of it.